The story of Noah, according to the Bible. Is it true? Could the ark have been built so that it would stay afloat for 13 months? Would it have been big enough to carry all those animals? Was the earth actually covered with water? And finally, since the wood of the ark was soaked with pitch, wouldn't there be some evidence still in existence in the area known as Ararat? Well, those are valid questions. And in the search for Noah's Ark, they are the questions that must be examined. We can start here in this geology lab as we examine the evidence for the historic possibilities of a universal flood. A global flood would have had to deposit huge amounts of sedimentation throughout the world. It has been estimated that over 75% of the surface of the globe is sedimentary in nature.
The United States has immense sedimentary deposits located in California, the Colorado Plateau, and the Midwest Plains. But India has the deepest known sedimentary deposits, 60,000 feet deep. Geologists have found scores of sedimentary deposits throughout the world where fossilized remains of animals and plants, oftentimes from different geographical regions, were dumped into one huge graveyard. Unusual transportation and rapid burial are usually indications of a flood. A fossil graveyard, which is today a tourist attraction in Lincoln, Wyoming, is another example of a deposit containing a variety of odd remains. Alligators, palm leaves, birds, deep-sea fish, turtles, mammals, and many types of insects. Probably one of the greatest finds indicating a universal flood are the lignite deposits in Germany, where scientists have determined that a mixture of plants, animals, and even insects from all climatic areas of the world are buried in one common mass grave. In 1929, the leading English archaeologist, Sir Leonard Woolley, confirmed that such a flood did occur in the valley of the Tigris-Euphrates, known by scientists to be the birthplace of civilization. During an excavation at Abraham's city of Ur, Woolley discovered that beneath the layers of successive civilizations, there was about 11 feet of mud. Mud without any trace of human presence. Then, beneath this layer of mud, Woolley found traces of another civilization, ruins of human dwellings, the presence of life. This discovery proves that for a time in this area, life was absent and floodwaters were present. Further proof of such a deluge is confirmed by these and other fossilized objects, all found atop the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest. Also, geologists who have climbed Mount Ararat have discovered salt clusters. Analysis of these salt clusters showed them to be from salt water, proof that the mountain was once covered with seawater. Yes, throughout the world, evidence for a flood is abundant. There seems no doubt that at one time the earth was engulfed in a great deluge.
But what could have caused such a catastrophic worldwide flood? What happened to the earth 5,000 years ago that could have caused even the highest mountains to be covered with water? To find the answer, I've come here to this observatory to talk to Roger Rusk, Professor Emeritus of Physics at the University of Tennessee.
In our research, we asked many scientists what could have started such a flood. A number mentioned a shift in the Earth's orbital axis. We asked about this possibility.
See you again.
We've been investigating the possibility of a universal deluge. And as a part of our investigations, a question has come up about a possible shift on the axis of the entire Earth. Is that within scientific possibility?
Yes. George Dodwell in Australia has come up with a theory that the Earth used to be at a 90-degree angle to its path around the sun and had a dislocation of some sort that carried over to about 26 degrees and has come back to the present 23 and a half in a stable position.
Well, now, wouldn't a shift of that kind be a terribly violent kind of thing? What could cause it?
Well, there are various things that could cause it, various agents. A big comet hitting the Earth would be one. An asteroid hitting the Earth could be one.
Well, now, if indeed there were such a change, such a shift, what would be the immediate result on the surface of the Earth? Would it bring about the conditions, let's say, of a universal deluge? Would it move the oceans and generally just disrupt the entire landmass?
This idea was expressed at an international meeting of petroleum geologists some years ago. The idea was expressed that a crustal adjustment like that, and if the mantle moves, the core will have to move in the opposite direction because the total spin cannot change. That would be quite slow, whereas the response of the oceans would be instantaneous. and the ocean be sloshed out of the basins and just wash over the continents and go back down to the ocean basin on the other side.
You mean an entire ocean would simply get up and wash across a landmass, just wiping out everything in its path, and then gradually seep back into the basin?
Yes, that's perfectly plausible.
Well, Professor, wouldn't the shift of the mantle in this manner bring about a violent volcanic action?
Oh, yes, tremendous volcanic action. And this could trigger, of course, tremendous precipitation. You see, the Earth at that time, so long ago, probably had a canopy around it, just as Venus and Jupiter and Saturn now have. Perfectly normal state of affairs.
Canopy? You mean of clouds?
A complete covering of clouds, made up of water vapor and water droplets and ice crystals in the top, you see, such as our cirrus clouds today are ice crystals. And if we had volcanic activity stir up a lot of this dust, then you'd get the condensation, you see, of moisture around these dust particles, be nuclei, and this whole canopy could be precipitated out very, very quickly.
Well, then, if we did have, indeed, this dislocation, the volcanic action, the movement of the ocean, the breaking up of the canopy over the Earth, the change, in effect, in everything that took place, this would certainly match, more or less, the account of universal deluge, which destroyed virtually all life.
Yes.
How long ago, then, would the theory, according to the theory, would this have been?
Something of the order of 5,000 to 6,000 years ago.
Then it does approximately match the story of Genesis.
It fits very well. Fits very well with our idea of the time period between the, say, Abraham going backwards to the time of Noah. Fits very well with it.
Now, that's impressive evidence. Both geologically and archaeologically, all indications seem to point to a universal deluge. But ancient
The next reported sighting of the Ark was in 1916, when two Russian aviators saw the remains of the Ark while flying over Mount Ararat. They spotted the Ark near a glacial pond and described it as a strange-looking vessel whose top was rounded over with a flat catwalk about 5 feet wide down the center of it. A report was sent to the Tsar, and on his orders, 2 special companies of soldiers were sent to the mountain. 2 weeks of hard labor were needed to reach the site. Once there, complete measurements were taken, plans were drawn, and even photos were taken. The Ark was found to contain hundreds of rooms. Some unusually large rooms had fences of great timbers across them. Other rooms were lined with cages. A report was sent back to Moscow, but only 2 days after it arrived, the government was overthrown by the communists, and the records were destroyed. Dr. John Warwick Montgomery met a man who was directly linked to publication of the story of the Russian aviators. We asked him about it.
The Russian expedition is one of the most interesting stories connected with the survival of the Ark. And what we know about this, the solid information, is dependent very largely on the gentleman whose picture you see here. This is the late Colonel Alexander Koor. He was a colonel in the White Russian Army. This man had contact with soldiers who were in the squad that went up Ararat and verified the existence of a boat, the boat that had been seen by an aviator. Colonel Koor mentions in a sworn statement that he knew a Lieutenant Ruzhansky, whose brother, a sergeant who had archaeological training, was actually a member of that squad. Colonel Koor also was responsible for the first publication of this information. I had contact with Colonel Koor myself a year or so before his death in Menlo Park, California. He was a most distinguished and pleasant gentleman, and I was quite certain that he was sure of his information, that he had not imagined this in any sense of the word.